They say giants don't just fall. Sometimes they jump. In 1996, Kodak was the king of the world, worth $31 billion and fueled by 145,000 employees. Fast forward to 2012, and they were filing for bankruptcy. But here's the real kicker. Kodak didn't die because of a bad economy. This was a corporate suicide in slow motion. They literally invented the future back in '75, then tried to bury it alive. Why would an empire choose to die? If you agree, 80s or 90s, you remember the smell. That sharp, vinegary chemical scent when you opened a fresh yellow envelope of prints. Kodak didn't just sell film. They sold the Kodak moment. They owned every birthday, every Christmas, and every vacation. But how did the brand that was the literal heartbeat of the American family become a ghost? To see the crash, we have to look at the man who built the fortress. Meet George Eastman, a kid who dropped out at 14 to support his widowed mother, working for pennies at a bank. Back then, photography was a rich man's nightmare. You needed a horse-drawn wagon just to carry the chemicals and plates. Eastman was obsessed with making it simple. He wasn't just a tinkerer. He was a disruptor before that was a buzzword. He wanted a camera to be as easy to use as a pencil. And boy, did he deliver. Working late nights in his mom's kitchen, Eastman perfected the dry plate and then the roll of film. In 1888, the first Kodak camera hit the streets with a slogan that rocked the world: "You press the button. We do the rest." Suddenly, any regular Joe could be a photographer. Eastman didn't just invent a cool gadget. He invented a money-printing machine that would dominate the globe for over 100 years. Kodak's business model was a masterclass in greed. The good kind. They sold the cameras cheap, sometimes at a loss, just to get you hooked on the film and the processing. It's the razor and blade strategy: give away the handle, charge M for the blades forever. In Rochester, NY, they built Kodak Park, a massive 200-building industrial city with its own power plant. They were essentially a licensed mint for American cash. The secret sauce was the chemistry. Making film was a 50-step nightmare of precision, and Kodak kept the recipe under lock and key. It was more secure than the Pentagon. Employees in one building had no clue what the guys in the next building were mixing. It was a perfect monopoly. If you wanted to see your memories in color, you had to pay the Kodak tax. For decades, they were untouchable. They were the gold standard. It's wild how something so huge can just vanish into thin air. If you've still got an old Kodak camera in a drawer or a box of yellow envelopes in the attic, hit that subscribe button right now. We're uncovering the stories of the empires that shaped our lives, the stuff they don't teach in business school. Already subbed. Awesome. Because in 1975, a young engineer walked into the boardroom with a bomb that would destroy everything. Enter Steven Sasson, a 24-year-old whiz kid. In 1975, he built a clunky, 8-pound contraption the size of a toaster. It took 23 seconds to record a grainy, black and white image onto a cassette tape. It was the world's first digital camera. Sasson thought he'd be the company hero. He took it to the big brass, expecting a standing ovation. Instead, he got a room full of suits looking at him like he had 3 heads. The executives looked at that digital toaster and felt a chill. "That's cute, Steve," they said, "but don't tell a soul." See, they weren't stupid, they were scared. Kodak was making 70% profit margins on every roll of film. Digital used, 0 film. They saw Sasson's invention not as the future, but as a parasite that would kill their golden goose. They chose to bury the digital revolution to protect their paper empire. It was a fatal move. Kodak held all the digital patents, but they only threw crumbs at the R and D. They were busy perfecting the candle while the light bulb was already humming. This is the textbook innovator's dilemma. They were so afraid of hurting their film sales that they literally bet against themselves. While the suits, in Rochester were patting each other on the back. The world was moving on. And the first real blow came from across the ocean. In the 80s, Fujifilm from Japan landed on US shores. They were faster, cheaper, and their colors were brighter. In 84, Fuji became the official sponsor of the Olympics right in Kodak's backyard. Kodak's response? They didn't innovate. They complained to Washington about unfair trade. They were fighting a legal battle while Fuji was winning the hearts and cameras of American families. But the yellow giant had a dark side. Making all that film was a filthy business. For years, Kodak Park was pumping millions of gallons of waste into the Genesee River, silver, cadmium, you name it. It was Kodak's private dump. Deformed fish and poisoned groundwater were the hidden cost of those pretty vacation photos. While the commercials showed smiling kids, the factories were leaving a toxic footprint that would haunt them for decades. Loyal workers started getting sick. Rare cancers and lung issues became a part of the job in the coating rooms. Kodak used its massive influence to hush things up and settle out of court, but you can only hide a mess that big for so long. By 1994, Kodak Park was a federal Superfund site. The billions they needed to pivot to digital were now being sucked into environmental lawsuits and soil cleanup. The empire was starting to rot. The 90s arrived, and the internet changed the rules of the game. Photos weren't just for shoeboxes anymore. They were for email. Sony, Canon, and Nikon saw the writing on the wall and sprinted toward digital. Kodak tried to hedge their bets with photo CD, a clunky, expensive middle ground that nobody wanted. They still believed people would always want a physical print. They were wrong. The world wanted instant, and they wanted it digital. In 93 fish around, he spent $2 billion on digital tech, but the internal culture was toxic. The film guys and the digital guys were at each other's throats. Every time Kodak launched a digital camera, the profit margin was pathetic compared to film. The board panicked. They didn't have the stomach for the thin margins of the tech world. They were running full speed, but they were headed for a cliff. By 2003, Kodak launched the EasyShare line, and for a minute, they were actually winning the digital market share. But there was no profit in it. And then came the iPhone. Suddenly, everyone had a Kodak in their pocket 24/7. Kodak was a decade late to the party, and their pockets were empty. They started slashing thousands of jobs. Rochester, once a booming hub of innovation, started looking like a Rust Belt ghost town. January 2012, the end of the road. Kodak filed for Chapter 11, but they didn't just go away. They became a zombie brand. They tried everything to stay relevant. They even launched Kodak Coin in 2018 to ride the Bitcoin hype. The stock jumped 120% and then crashed into the dirt. It was embarrassing to watch a legendary American icon try to pull an internet hustle just to keep the lights on. They had lost their soul along the way. In 2020, things got even weirder. The government announced a $765 million loan for Kodak to make COVID medicine, from photos to pharmacy. But the deal was instantly hit with an insider trading investigation. The second act was stained by courtrooms and scandals. Kodak wasn't a pioneer anymore. It was just a famous name being used as a political football. It was a sad, chaotic ending for a brand that once defined American trust. Today, the iconic chimneys of Kodak Park have been imploded. Thousands of families lost the pensions Eastman once promised. The Kodak moment is now just a case study in business schools on what not to do. It's a stark warning. If you aren't willing to kill your own success to build the future, someone else is going to do it for you. The giant didn't die of old age. It died because it was too proud to look in the mirror. The Kodak story tells us that nostalgia is a beautiful place to visit, but a dangerous place to live. They held the future in a lab back in 1975, but they were too afraid of the dark to turn on the light. Next time you take a photo on your phone, remember, the tech was born in Rochester, in a box the bosses told everyone to hide. The world moves fast, and Kodak proved that even the biggest empire can turn to dust if it closes its eyes to tomorrow.